So you'd realize that education becomes a vital tool for many brains because they determine the thinking capacity and the cognition levels amongst the consumers. So there's been provision for ECD, early childhood development. You'd see that there are so many crashes out there because education is a basic need. School attendance is compulsory for children between the ages 7 and 15. Like you guys, it is not that compulsory because you have matured enough to be responsible to attend classes. Then there's been a significant improvement since 2002 when it comes to people who can be able to read and write. We normally only focus on literacy levels. There's also something that we call numeracy levels. So people being able to know basic mathematics, being able to add, being able to subtract, or being able to divide or to multiply. So the illiteracy rate amongst older people is declining. Illiteracy amongst people older than market messages that we are sending out there, they are reaching the intended targets the same way you were sending those messages. Occupation and income uh, influencing patients, all these things and the impact that they can have on consumer behavior. Then the labor market, an estimated 36.4 million people between ages 15 and 64 living in South Africa. But we have also noted a trend whereby South Africa is experiencing a brain drain. So there are so many people living in the country for better greener, in seek of greener pastures or for better standards of living. From this group, 21.3 million make up of the labor force of South Africa and 15.6 are employed. March 2016, and youth unemployment is actually relatively high. The unemployment rate amongst women is 29.3% during this period, which is 4.7 higher amongst men. So all these patterns and trends, we need to consider them as marketers because they've got a significant impact on consumer behavior. Formal and informal sectors are also an area of concern. We've got lots of people who are becoming self-employed because there are very few jobs out there. So the formal sector employment rate significantly outweighs the informal sector employment. 10.9 million employed in the formal sector, whereas 2.5 million employed in the informal sector. Composition of South African market, labor market, and high employment influence the blend of products and services companies can provide. So, some thoughts. What influence does labor and high employment rate have on consumer behavior? The answers are pretty obvious, and you guys must have your own time to reflect and think about the impact the labor market and high employment can have on consumer behavior and how this can also influence strategy development. Then we are done with individuals, and now we are going to look at households. Household also significantly play a role on the products and services that families use. So we need to consider the family's housing. We need to consider their access to water. We need to consider which type of power do they use, the telecommunication access to healthcare, as well as household income. So the type of houses have changed significantly in the recent past. Formal dwellings are increasing between 77% 2013. Informal dwellings also increased to 13.6 in 2013. Traditional dwellings are declined by 2.5 over the period of 2002 to 2013. We've actually also seen the growth of RDP houses that also can have an impact on consumer behavior. Then when it comes to access to water, it is estimated that in 2013, 45.3 households had access to pipe water or tap water in their homes. 26.8 of household access to water on site, whereas 15.2 relied on communal taps, 2.6 they had to go to their neighbors for taps, for tapped water, and 4.2 of all households still go to the river to fetch water. So something that students must also have some thoughts about. What influence does housing and water have on consumer behavior? Answers are pretty obvious, but students shouldn't be lazy. We need to think deeper about the impact housing could have on consumer behavior and strategy development. So the access to power sources, there's been a steady increase in the use of electricity from 77.1% in 2002 to 85% in 2013. But things are also changing because there's been a lot of developments since 2013. As we are currently in load shedding, we know the impact and the significance of electricity when it comes to consumer behavior. Households are actually cutting back on many things as a result of load shedding. So there was a consistent decrease of wood and paraffin for cooking purposes during the same period. And there's also been a slight increase in the percentage of households that use gas. Then connectivity also matters in terms of telecommunications. There's been a dramatic increase in the in the number of households with the landline, telephone, or with cell phone. But we also realize that landlines are also decreasing nowadays, where relying more on heavy smartphones. So only 5% indicating that they don't have a cell phone or it comes to access is reported almost 40% access to the internet. So these are the trends that you must take note of, especially nowadays when everything and everyone is relying on online services. And the marketing activities that we are putting online, they can also determine the connectivity between brands and consumers. So what influence then does energy source and telecommunication have on consumer behavior? You also need to have some time and think about the influences that electricity and other sources of energy, as well as having access to smartphones and internet, contribute to strategy development and consumer behavior. Healthcare is another aspect that we need to focus, another market characteristics that we need to focus. because the provision of adequate healthcare service remain a major concern, particularly with the prevalence of HIV and AIDS. The good news is that there's been lots of development when it comes to HIV and AIDS, to an extent that HIV and AIDS is no longer a scary disease or something that is creates social stigma like it used to be before. People are living healthier, people have got access to more ARVs, and lifestyle, life-threatening diseases such as cancer, um, diabetes are becoming more deadly than HIV and AIDS itself. So there's been a gradual increase in the use of public health care facilities in recent years and a gradual decrease in the private facilities. Access to medical aid membership remains elusive and out of reach for the majority of South Africans. So the living standard measure published by SARF lists the monthly household income amongst South Africans. The survey describes the South African population into 10 universal groups. So the groups ranges from living standard 10 with an average monthly income of 40,000 to living standard measure 1, which has got the lowest monthly income of 1,400. So here, when you're talking about the monthly income, we're talking about the entire household surviving on 1,480, not only a single person. That's how bad the situation is when it comes to consumer spending, because it affects consumer spending. The majority of South Africans fall within living standard measure 6 with an average income of 6,769, which is also low. It is also low for families, especially those who have got lots of ones, because here families will end up prioritizing on basic needs instead of luxuries. So if you are coming up with a marketing strategy that deals with wants, you need to come up with a good marketing strategy that will sort of compress households to consider your product if it's not a basic need. Therefore, we go back to our exercise. What influence does healthcare and household income have on consumer behavior and marketing strategies? These are things that you need to discuss. Don't forget to mention these things on discussion forums on core campus, so that other students and us, your lecturers, can be able to see and go through your thoughts. So that's it about lesson 7. And I hope that this lesson was helpful to you. And it also gives you some insights as someone who is living in South Africa, someone who is part of the South African population, someone who is part of the South African races, someone who is part of the households, the decisions and the trends that could affect our consumer behavior. If there are any questions, don't forget to WhatsApp me, don't forget to email me. Don't forget to reach me on all the platforms that I mentioned at the beginning of this year, where you are going to reach me. Thank you.